So, we have an article from deadline.com, which basically reinstates what I said in a previous video about why Disney pulled the plug on Doctor Who, but with a bit of a sweetener to it, a bit of an extra taste to it. So, why Disney ditched Doctor Who? Sources say ratings, big ticket budget, and MAGA politics were factors in the BBC deal failing to regenerate. No, they just put it down the toilet, for sure. The toilet, as we say in England, the loo, the kazi, the bog. Exclusive! Dana Wilder was in London earlier this month, but it's safe to say that renewing Doctor Who was not among Disney Entertainment Chief's priorities. Sources have been telling Deadline for more than a year that Disney has been lukewarm on the sci-fi series, and by Tuesday afternoon it was official. The BBC confirmed that its Doctor Who co-production agreement had vaporized. What was conceived as a plan to marvelize the franchise did not translate into a big bang. It said the partnership has died with a whimper, with Disney not even putting out a statement to mark its passing. So what doomed the Doctor Who deal, and what comes next? That's typical Disney, as we all know who follow Disney in terms of Star Wars. Every single film, I think there's been over 15 films were announced, and then we've heard nothing more of them. The Rian Johnson trilogy, the guys from Game of Thrones trilogy, the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron film. Patty Jenkins has directed Wonder Woman 1 and 2. The list goes on, guys. You can check it out. Deadline has spoken with multiple sources in Doctor Who's orbit who say the Disney deal fell apart for a variety of reasons, including concerns over Shudigatwa, show's failure to break out from its established fan base and its big ticket budget. Others suspect that fears of a woke backlash may be a factor. I did mention that as one previous video. Pat on the back for me. As a Doctor Who has embraced diverse storytelling under showrunner Russell T Davies. In quotation, it wasn't for the long term. So, it was pretty apparent from early on that this wasn't for the long term, says a former Disney executive. Everyone got the impression that it wasn't doing what it needed to do on Disney Plus to be sustained. Another person close to Doctor Who adds, the writing has been on the wall for ages. There's been a complete lack of enthusiasm over at Disney. I've recently shared as well what were the ratings in the UK in a previous video. So if you think the UK ratings on BBC iPlayer were bad, imagine in America on Disney Plus. Announced in October 2022, Disney's agreement to co-produce Doctor Who was inked at the height of the streaming wars, just weeks before Bob Iger walked back into the building and started scaling back spending. It was hailed at the time as an unprecedented pact bringing together two giants of entertainment, but the ex-Disney insider says they soon detected regret at spending so much on Doctor Who. The show's budget was between 6 million to 8.5 million and 8 million per episode. We understand putting the value of the deal as much as 168 million. Wow, I was wrong. I thought it was 100 million. Disney put it was 168 million. Jesus. The former Mouse House employee notes a lack of marketing firepower behind the brand, nowhere near the might of brands like Marvel or Star Wars, creating something of a chicken-egg scenario whereby it became harder for Doctor Who to cut through to American audiences. I wonder why. It certainly wasn't being shouted about as a big success, as this person, again, look at the ratings. Executive at BBC Studios, which owns Doctor Who and oversees international sales, says, it never felt like Disney were making much of a deal about the iconic sci-fi series, which has been on British screens for more than 60 years. Disney sources have countered this, with one telling the Times of London that a lot of marketing muscle was put behind the show. Again, this is a British, icon, in a sense. It's a British tradition. Just like the full English breakfast. Now, just because it's an English tradition does not make it a tradition that can be accepted worldwide. Ratings flop. Doctor Who's performance has been far from stellar in the US. This season failed to register in the Nielsen and Luminance streaming charts. Meanwhile, the entertainment strategy guy blog branded Doctor Who's debut on Disney as one of the flops of 2024. There was also a serious lack of awards buzz around the series. Which only managed one Primetime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Choreography for Scripted Program in 2025 during its time on Disney+. On the BBC, Doctor Who has seen an alarming drop-off in viewer figures. Season 5 averaged 3.8 million viewers, according to gold standard 28-day viewing figures from BARP, UK's official ratings agency. This represents a decline of 1 million on the prior season. I'd say it's a bit more than that. The first starring Gatwa and produced by Jane Tranter's Bad Wolf. Both Gatwa seasons were down during Whittaker's concluding season into 2021, watched by 5.2 million people, a period that was not considered to be vintage Doctor Who. The ratings were not up to much, someone involved in the series ruefully acknowledges. Ruefully, that's a nice word. BBC drama boss Lindsay Salt thanked Disney for being terrific global partners. The Mouse House was not nearly as glowing, with a spokesperson simply confirming the BBC statement and noting that Gatwa's seasons will remain on Disney Plus outside the UK for the time being. Sources tell us that the BBC and Disney had initially planned to make a statement about Doctor Who's future after the premiere of spin-off series The War Between the Land and the Sea, but Disney moved the announcement up. They've clearly sat down and made a final decision in the past week or so, but it's been on the cards for a long time, says Tony Jordan, who runs the Doctor Who Appreciation Society and speaks to the show's fan base every day. Really, so every single Doctor Who fan is on this fan base, and they speak to them every day. Okay. Jordan says Hooverines believe Gatwa seasons have been patchy. Patchy's putting it lightly. I did not watch after his first Christmas special, his first episode. I just saw clips here and there. There were some strong episodes in both, but the two-part finales were not particularly well regarded, he explains. The lack of episodes made it difficult for audiences to get to know Gatwa and his companions to really develop their storylines. That is utter bullshit. If you have an hour episode and you've got, 8 of them? 8 hours. And in a film can specifically distinguish a character in the space of 2 hours to even an hour and a half. If you go back to the original Disney cartoons, even an hour and 20 minutes. When you first meet Aladdin in Aladdin, you know straight away who he is, what he wants, and what he's going to do, in a sense. It doesn't take rocket science. If you cannot establish a character in the first episode, take David Tennant's Christmas special. Okay. At the end of that episode, we knew who he was going to be as the Doctor. We didn't know completely, but we had an inkling of where it was going to go. Hence why he says, "Who am I? I don't know. I don't know. Am I this? Am I this? Am I this?" Because he was trying to find himself. If you're still trying to find yourself after 2 seasons and over 16 hours of TV, including the Christmas specials, you've got a problem. And it's not on Gatwa. It's not on Gatwa. That is on the writing. Gatwa's experience felt somewhat fraught. He left after 2 seasons later, blamed burnout, the 33-year-old saying he was getting old and my body was tired. Yeah, okay. He wants that Hollywood money. A lot of source says the show suffered because Gatwa never fully embraced the role. There is more to that role than performing. Person says you've got to be an ambassador for the brand and embrace being that generation's Doctor. Matt Smith, David Tennant fully understood responsibility it carried. Also Peter Capaldi had put in that, by the way. Don't forget Peter Capaldi. Another well-placed industry source says Doctor Who became too woke for Trump's USA. What did I say? And this was a factor in Disney's minds. When it came to a renewal under writer Davies, the series has cast transgender actress Yasmin Finney, featured drag queen, I'm going to butcher this, Jenks Monsoon as a villain and played host to a historic gay kiss between Gatwa and Jonathan Groff, some of which drew complaints from BBC viewers. Yes, because this is supposed to be a kids' show. And you do not need parents describing things to their kids which they are not ready to fully understand. We've had gay characters in the past, or bisexual characters such as Captain Jack Harkness, but it was done in a subtle way. It was not done as in your face, "Mummy, why is that happening? Who are they? Who is that? What is that?" I'm sorry, but that is the way that it is. Disney is incredibly unlikely to ever admit that politics were a factor in Doctor Who's cancellation, of course not. But Jimmy Kimmel's brief suspension was revealing of the company's desire to minimize MAGA wrath. With Davis yet to commit to show running future seasons, This was a Doctor Who could have dialed down diversity under Disney renewal, but the fact remains that celebrating the difference has always been part of the show's DNA. Again, this is something that I completely agree with, and it was also done in things like Star Trek, the original series. You can have subtle themes throughout, of course you can, but not in your face. This is a kids' show, it's made for children. Okay, we adults as well, we love it too, but we'll get those nuances. But kids should be able to enjoy it and not care or not question what are those nuances and what is the underlayer. That's what we do. Doctor Who's post-Disney reset. Season 15 concluded on a vigorous note with gap regenerating to Billie Piper's Rose Tyler. It's not Rose Tyler. It's Bad Wolf. Doctor Who companion of yesteryear. Jordan speculates this will be temporary. Davis will use the just announced 2026 Christmas special to tie up some loose ends. Because again, bring back the people that the people loved. Just like Marvel were doing with Robert Downey Jr. coming back. Not as Iron Man, but as Doctor Doom. And I'm sure that Chris Evans is also coming back as Captain America, or actually Nancy Captain America. You wait. Beyond that, Jordan thinks the fresh blood might be required. Nothing says that Russell will be show running from 2027 onwards. Like I said in my last video, he won't be. Might be time for a new showrunner to take it forwards. Committing to a Christmas special that is still 15 months away buys the BBC time to ponder how to push on that it has lost a hefty chunk of its Doctor Who budget. It could be a reset and buys everyone time to make decisions, was how it was characterised by someone close to the series. The former Disney executive reckons BBC will be able to spend at most $2.5 million to $3 million per episode, which could work out as around $1 million per episode from the BBC's own pocket, and any additional coming from the BBC Studios distribution advance in what is a tricky market for drama funding. They will see Doctor Who's budget slashed by around half from the Disney days. Once you've gone up, it's always difficult to go back down, the source says. You can cut budgets to a certain degree, but not by so much. Is the BBC really going to stump up even more for something showing decline? Again, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. Doctor Who in the past was made on a budget. You can do it. Go back to basics. You don't have to be as big as these other franchises. It was never meant to be, nor is it. So there is more to the article, but I'm not going to bore you with it. You can see a screenshot of it and read it for yourself. We all knew that this was what was happening. I predicted this as well 2 years ago, that this was what was going to happen. I was told, yeah, but still, there's still fans. Yes, but not. It's the same as making films that are 200 to 300 million on a budget, but the fan base is very limited. Take, for example, Tron Ares. That film is not going to make money. It's going to lose around 300 million. Probably. They say 150, but for sure more. Let me know, guys, what you think. I think it does need a reset. I think it needs fresh brains, fresh writers, a fresh cast. And I think it needs a new actor that is going to come in, a male actor, and he's going to be there for at least 5 years to 10 years. And they're going to go back to basics. Let me know what you think. I will speak to you later.